Hello everyone, my name is Renuka, Assistant Professor in Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. In previous class, we had studied about what is the context diagram and what is the transformation diagram and what are the major difference between the two. And today we shall study about the major conventions when you're writing a transformation diagram. What are the important aspects that you have to keep in mind while you're writing a transformation diagram. Let us try to understand about all these things in today's class. So now we have what is called as a behavioral model, rules and conventions. So name itself indicates what do you mean by transformation. It transforms one form to another form. So if in previous class we had also given an example how a continuous signal is broken down into discrete, the logical, with the help of a transducer we could change the discrete to continuous, correct? So there is a kind of transformation happening within a cycle. So there are multiple activities happening within a cycle, right? So to know that we need to have certain conventions, right? So here we have what is called as notations. What you can see here is a notation and it is abbreviated as A, B and C. A is the incoming and you have two B and C, okay? Two lines which are outgoing, B and C, which are nothing but the subsets of A. It is considered as a subset of A, right? Which means that whatever comes through A is taken as an input across two subsets, right? But in case of the second, what you see is you have an input A and you don't have a subset, but you have a flow of the same information being splitted or diverted from the mainstream into substreams, correct? So this is nothing but all A is passed on to two different transformations, okay? You have two inputs B and C and it converges and you get one single input, okay? So that becomes your data flow. So what you can see is B and C come from two different transformations. So there are two transformations which are held at B and C and those two converges at a point A and you have the combination here at A will be nothing but a single data flow, okay? Then the last is A, whatever you obtain here as an input is got from the input of two different transformations, okay? So these are nothing but the notation, okay? The arrowheads and the line, the curve, okay? The arc here, these are all the notations and these are the meaning with respect to those notations, fine? So now keeping all those basics in mind, we need to know what is behavioral model and the rules and convention for those behavioral models, okay? But there are a number of rules and conventions associated with transformation diagram, and in order to construct and interpret the diagrams, there are four important rules to be understood. So there are four rules that we have to understand when we are going to write a transformation diagram, that too in a behavioral model. What are those? Data transformation, control transformation, input-output types, and then you have balancing. These are the four major types of transformation based on which you have a different rules and conventions that could be studied, okay? If you just see these diagrams here on the left hand side, you have what is called as new control parameters, then you have system status, and then you have a controller status. Now there is a question. So if you consider this bubble here as a controller, then you have two inputs. What are the two inputs here? They have a new control parameters and you have system status. So system will update some information and then you have the control parameters will give you some details, correct? Those two are the inputs for this particular controller. Now the question is, do you have to wait for both the inputs to occur at the same time, or is it okay that if you have one input which already has appeared to be stored and wait for the next input, okay? Either it could be control parameters or it could be a system status to appear and then you have an output, or irrespective of the both, do you have a controller status being obtained as soon as you receive one single input, okay? So these are the different kinds of questions that leads to this kind of transformation diagram. So to have a better clarity, we are going for what is called as a new system. Okay, here what happens is top left corner here, okay, it is rewritten in a different fashion. Okay, what does it say? You have new control parameters as usual, then you have a system status. So those two are the two different data which converges, and you have one single input, and this input is given to an update controller, and from this updated controller you have what is called as a controller status that has been issued. Okay, so you have two inputs here converging at one place called as a update controller. The after updation of that controller you have a controller status. Fine, whether the status should be high, status should be low, 0, 1, correct? So based on the updated controller. How do you get the updated control? By based on the two different parameters that are being assigned to an updated controller. Fine. Now after that, again you feel that if there is a delay between the two inputs, if there is a delay. So if you have a control parameter which has already is present at that instant of time, but again you're waiting for the system status, or it could be vice versa. System status has already appeared, now it is waiting for what is the control parameters. Now there could be another possibility. So this diagram is again rewritten in a different fashion. What you see in C, in the C what you have is, you have additional called as a system status. So here you have a temporary storing of the data as and when it has been updated, okay, or I can simply call it as a pool. Pool is a place where you can update or you can retrieve data whenever you want as per your desire, because the information is already stored in that pool, right? So now you have system control parameter as usual, then you have what you have is changed system status. So if there is any changes in the system status, it has to be updated. Once it is updated, it will be stored in what is called as system status storage block. So in the storage block or the pool, and it has been updated at the controller as and when the control parameters appears. So once both the input are available, only then you have the control status as an input. That is a new control status. Earlier if it was off, you want the control status to be on, okay? Or if the conveyor belt is off, if the speed was low and there was an alarm, and due to the alarm system it had temporarily been paused, okay? What do? Then there is a variation based on the system status. Now it can turn it on, correct? It goes high. Then you have the new parameters which will be updated, okay? That is the speed, everything will be updated for every second. Then those updated information along with the stored status information will go as a controller status, okay? So this is how you study about what is called as the data transformation, okay? So this is the basic way of representing or simple rules and conventions that you have to keep in mind when you are writing any behavioral model, okay? So as we have dealt here, we have four different ways in which you can actually write a behavioral model, okay, to have a better rules and convention. So let us get into what is meant by a data transformation, okay? So discrete data to decisions, or I can simply say that if you have two simultaneous information, as I have told you, there is a decision which has to be taken care, whether you have to wait for two signals to pass through, need to be combined, and you have to have one single output. That is one. Then the composite data flow when all inputs are present. So there can be n number of such input flows when the data are present. There can be complex data flow. Then the pool, where you can always go ahead and read the data as many number of times you want. One input from transformation and not to mix discrete and continuous data for same transformation. If you have the same transformation, you need not mix the discrete as well as continuous, okay? So there has to be a differentiation between the discrete and continuous. These are the important points that has to be kept in mind when you are looking into a data transformation. And not just that, you have what is called as control transformation. So after data transformation, you have what is called as control. So there are no restrictions, okay, on number of inputs that can be transformed. There can be n number of control transformation that can occur at the same instant of time. So you have what is called as input-output types. So what is this input-output? So based on what is the transformation, whether it is data or control information, whether the input is a data or is it a control. If it is a data flow, then the output is a data flow. And if it is a prompt, it is just like enabling, disabling, trigger. These are all some of the prompts that we have already learned, right? So if there is a prompt in that data flow, then you have what is called as a control flow. Okay, that will be the output, right? Enable some activity or disable some operation or trigger when it is high. What will happen? Certain operation is performed. So what is happening? There is a control flow as an output, correct? So input, if it is a prompt, then you have a control flow, fine. Then if you have a transformation, if it is control transformation, then at the input level, then you have control flow could be taken as a control flow. And if it is a prompt, again, it is taken as a prompt. Okay. So if it is a control, if it is enable, it will be enabled and the output also will be enabled. Fine. So this is all about your input and output types. So it's basically classified as data or the control. And what kind of input are we looking for? Whether it is a prompt, is a data or a control signal. Fine. Then what is balancing? The process of checking that input and output corresponds is referred to as the balancing. So whatever the input that you are sending in, okay, if you are giving an input, temperature, okay, is your input. So is it a temperature that you are expecting as an output? If there is no such optimum temperature that is being achieved at the output, what do? There has to be some balancing that has to be done in a circuit so that it will show you the required output or a desired output that is required for your operation of a plant. Fine. So that is balancing based on what kind of output you get for a particular input. That is called as a balancing. Next you have transformation specification. Once you know the rules and regulations of the transformation in behavioral model, now you need to know what do you mean by transformation specification. Okay, the process of subdivision continues till the analyst decides that no use of purpose is served by splitting up a transformation into smaller units. So what happens? Whenever there is a transformation, if I say that if I am transforming a signal, okay, the continuous signal into discrete, and you're further dividing into discrete again with a sub loop, right? It goes on with the multiple blocks, right? So what happens? There is a level of transformation that occurs. So a designer has to think till what particular value can you subdivide a transformation. And if that division has the same result as a previous, then there is no requirement of further division of transformation, isn't it? So it doesn't make any sense. So what has to be done? You have to stop that transformation at the initial level than further going and dividing and making things complicated, right? So you need to have a tab on what is the level of transformation, or a designer has to think till what level I have to transform or to be splitted or to be subdividing the entire division into sub-units so that the end entity will have a desired output rather than just having the same output as the previous. It doesn't serve the purpose, right? So the process of subdivision continues. Your dividing is continued till what point? Till the analyst feels that there is no use of having any further division. Okay, till then you have to have the subdivisions. Fine. So based on that, they are broadly classified into two. What is called as a process specification, other is called as a control specification. So what is a process specification? Usually the data specification is also called as a process specification, other is called as a control specification. Let us know what you mean by that. Okay. So in process specification, which is denoted as S-spec, S-P-E-C, which is nothing but the specification. It is the starting 4 alphabets which is combined with P. So process specification. Fine. The action that the data transformation has to carry out, the data transformation will be carried out in a process specification. So Ward and Miller in 1986 defined various methods of specifying this process specification, under which, okay, we had under data transformation, we had standard procedural techniques that has to be there in order to achieve this process specification. So standard procedural techniques of program designing languages, then you have pseudocodes were developed, and then you have structured English, or sometimes there could be a non-procedural methods, okay, which usually has a pre and the post conditions, conditional statement. The different specifications that are required for any process specification or a data specification to operate. One is the data specification, you have to have a standard procedural specifications, then you need to have a pseudocode, and finally you need to have a structured English. And sometimes it could be non-procedural too. Okay. So let us see how it looks like. Okay. Let us take an example here for a pseudocode. Pseudocode is nothing but it's an informal programming language. Informal programming language doesn't have exactly the same syntax as like that of C or Java. It is informal. So for example, if I say pspec, okay, 2.1, which means that it is at the transaction, that is transformation level 2, right? So which says that read temperature transducer. If you remember in the previous class, okay, we had studied about read temperature transducer. What will a transducer do? It changes one form of energy to another, right? So we have continuous to discrete level. This is what we had studied in earlier classes, right? So the input here was taken as an oven temperature. So you have an oven temperature there, okay, which is taken as an input, and the output was the area temperature. What is the complete area temperature? Now for every 1 second of D naught, so read oven temperatures, convert it to internal data representation, output convert value as a area temperature, and it ends. Okay. If you just see that it is simply a normal, it does not have a particular syntax, it is just a normal plain English, a simple commands that are being used. So they are called as a pseudocodes. Okay. They are not doesn't have a formal structure, it is having an informal structure of language, right. So here it says that input was the temperature. So what does it do? It reads over the temperature for every 1 second, it reads the temperature, keeps the tab of what is the temperature, then it gives the output of the area temperature, then later on it ends the program. Okay. So after the ending program, what does it mean? It will give the total temperature of that particular area in the oven, correct? So that is nothing but your read temperature of a transducer. This has been the operation being performed in a transformation, level 2 transformation, fine. So this is a simple example as to what is meant by the process specification and how do you write a pseudocode, fine. So you have to note that they form the code segment in a programming language. This is one of the basics that led to what is called as a coding, okay, which is the code segment of any of the programming languages. So now coming to what do you mean by control specification then, how does it look like? So now you need to think about how will the control flow occurs. Control is what? Not a program. Now it is a continuous process that has to be involved in obtaining a desired result, right. So now let us see what does it consist of. Okay. They describe control transformation and usually form a spec or a C. C stands for control and you have SPEC and it is denoted as CSPEC is a state transition diagram. It usually consists of a state transition diagram and a state transition matrix. So I have a matrix and a state transition diagram. So one state to another state, what is the transition that is happening? Related to whatever transition is happening, you have a relevant matrix for a better understanding inside what is happening inside the process. Okay. So have a STD which is called as the state transition diagram, other you have a state transition matrix, fine. So let us take the simple example here. What you see, you have state 1, this is how the simple STD looks like. You have 3 states, state 1, state 2, state 3, fine. Then you have to name the state, okay. You have to name the state, if it is start, stop, end, okay. So you have to name what state it is, okay. This is represented in a rectangular block, okay. Now events is written in this fashion. event A divided by action B. So if you want, if there is any state transition which is happening from state 1 to state 2, who is changing that because of the action of B? For the event that has occurred A, you have a variation from a state transition from state 1 to state 2. Correct? This is how you can think. So it is written as event A by action B. Similarly, if you take state 2 to state 3, it is written as event C, which was responsible, and there was an action due to which the state has changed from state 2 to state 3. Again, you have another event here, E and F. E is nothing but the event, F is the action. Because of that action, there is a transition of state 3 to state 2, right? So now this is the complete state transition. This is a state transition diagram, correct? Based on this, you have to write, if you see here, there is a matrix, okay? And write the entire state transition diagram into a form of a matrix. So how do you write that? The first column here and the first element will be, what is the present state? Okay, what is the present state? You write it as state 1, 2 and 3, okay, in a column wise. Then along the row wise, for state 1, from state, if you see the STD here, state 1, okay, it has changed from state 1 to state 2, correct? So there is an event A, event C and event E. So you know that there are 3 events. If you see this diagram here, you have event A, event C and event E. So you're writing along the row. So you have, first is the present state, and then you have the, what are the events that has occurred, right? And what is the transition which is happening in state 1? What is happening there? It is changing from state 1 to state 2 at event A, correct? This is event A, and the action was B, right? So usually you write it as next state divided by action, or you can simply say what state was responsible by what action, okay? Next you have state 2. In the state 2, what do you have? We have C is an event, and C event has occurred because of the action of D. So I write it as state 3 action D. You just see this diagram here, state 3 action D, and that happens at event C. Similarly, state 3 here, okay, which is changing the state from state 3 to state 2. So there is an event at E, correct? What is happening? Because the action of F, there is change of state from 3 to 2, okay? So this is how you write your table, okay? So I can simply say a state transition table, or can be a matrix too. So the action resulting from any event may be generation of an event signal or the generation of the prompt, either an enable or a disable or even a trigger. So these could be the outputs of the state transition. So that is the changes, that it can be a simple control, it can be a simple prompts that can occur in any of the control specification associated with STM, that is state transition matrix. How does it look like if I am taking this as an example? So STD for normal behavior of a system. For a normal behavior of a system, what do you mean by STD is nothing but what is the normal behavior of a system. But what are you going for state transition matrix? What do you understand? You can always understand there are certain undefined states. If you just see here in this rows and columns, there are empty blocks, correct? So these empty blocks will tell you what are the undefined states that occurs at each transition, okay? So you'll get to know what could be the duration, how can I reduce it, when can I have an alarm system. So it is the perfect way to analyze what is happening in a system, and then you can accommodate, okay, new control, any control loops that you would like to go for, right? Or set up an alarm and additional information that could be given as for an operator, okay? So these are some of the information that you can derive from a matrix. Fine, let us try to understand the concept here in a better way with this example. So now in this particular block diagram, what you see is you have off, locking guard, heater starting, conveyor starting, normal running, conveyor paused. What are all these? These are nothing but they are represented in a rectangular box, correct? Or I can say it is represented in the rectangular blocks. So which means that they are the states. Okay, told that what first we have to list out what are the different events, what are the different states that is occurring in that particular process. So these rectangular blocks that you see are nothing but your states. So you have on state, locking guard state, heater starting, conveyor starting state, then you have normal running state, and you have a conveyor pause state. So these are the different states. Now you have to know what are the event. You know that start is nothing but an event. Action is enable lock guards. If you start, you have to enable the lock guards. That is an action. So that action, okay, led to the change of off state to locking of guards. Is that understood? Now, the next state from locking of guards to heater starting, what is important action that needs to be performed? You have to ensure that the control area temperature is enabled. And the important event that occurs is you have to lock the guards. What is an event? What is an action? So based on these events and action, okay, then you have the conveyor starting. When will the conveyor start moving? Okay, when start conveyor goes on only when there is an event, that is the temperature becomes normal. Then it changes its states from heater starting to conveyor starting. So that is a change of state. Next, from conveyor starting to normal running, when will it happen? Only when the conveyor is at the constant speed, right? Now, from normal running to way back to off, if there is any alarm or if it is not normal, what happens? You can stop it. The event can occur as stop when if you give a stop button. So what does it happen? Enable stop conveyor, unlock the guards. So two actions. So you unlock the guards and stop the conveyor. Then it goes back to off state, right? So there is a change of state from normal running to off state. Or it can again, if there is no such problem, then it can go to the conveyor pause. There could be a pause if there is some erroneous result. If the speed is not picked up by the conveyor, then it could be paused for a certain duration of time. So what is the event? You are pausing it because you have enabled stop conveyor due to some reason. Then there will be a change of state from normal running to conveyor pausing. So from conveyor pausing, you again start, that is an event, by again what do? You have to enable the lock guards and enable the start conveyor. You're enabling means you're locking the guards and also you're starting with the conveyor. Then the state will change from conveyor paused to conveyor starting. Okay, there is a change of state. So based on the complete action, you're going to write a table here. Okay, what was the first thing that we have to decide? What are the list of states? What are the list of state here? Off, locking guard, heaters starting, conveyor starting, normal running, conveyor pause. So these are all the list of your change of state. Then you have events that is listed in row. So this is a column, you have a row here which talks about the different event. What are the event? Start, stop, pause. Then you have guard locked, then you have temperature normal, conveyor at speed. Okay. So based on these action from change of one state to another, you are writing the event and the action. And then you will get to know what are the different areas in this matrix which are undefined, okay, or which is undefined and you don't have any state of transition. Means the designer have to think as to when and all he can go ahead and stop the process if there is any necessity. So he can incorporate these blank spaces or utilize them for a better usefulness of the process to be more effective. Okay. So this is about the STD. So building the implementation model. So if you want to, once you are done with the an essential model, next is what is implementation model. So based on the essential model, you are trying to build up what is the implementation model. Okay. So building an implementation model, the construction of implementation model divides into 4 phases. The first is enhancing or elaborating the environmental model. So, you are going to elaborate on the environmental model. Then you have allocation of the processes, what are the different kinds of processes that has to be added on. Allocation of activities, the list of activities that has to be carried out in the subsection, the complete transformations. To tasks for each processor. Once a processor is defined, what is the allocation for each processor? The activities has to be distributed. Then definition of the structure of each task. So under each processor you have a definite task that has to be performed. So that becomes your building the implementation model. So these are the 4 important steps. Next is what is called as enhancing. Once you have built an implementation model, if you want to enhance, when will the enhancing come into picture? Only when you think about improvising on those implementation model based on the present technology, correct? Or you feel that probably the previous what you had developed or you had designed probably could be obsolete. So you think of improvising on it. So you try to say it as a enhanced model. How do you do that? Clarifying the boundaries between the system and the environment. So you have to give a better clarity what is the system and the environmental factor. Determining what activities of the system, what is the activities of a system that it can perform as defined as a behavioral model. Will it carry out? What will it carry out? What part of the environment will it be considering? Okay. Elaborating on data description, what are the descriptions that it has to think about. Then adding timing and process activation information. So what is the timing required, additional timing or cutting down the timing, okay. And then you have process activation information, when it has to start, when it has to stop, what is the timing required, can I reduce on the timing so that the speedy operation could be taken as an enhancement in any of the system design. So these are certain aspects, what you call it as enhancing the model for a implementation. So what kind of technology that you're going to use to support that particular system. Okay. So this is all about Miller methodologies that we have completely dealt about the essential modeling and the implementation modeling. In next class we shall study in detail about certain aspects of the different methodology apart from Yourdon and Ward and Miller. Thank you.